Hi, I'm Marc Stevens. The website, of course, marcstevens.net, where we're bringing about a voluntary society one visit at a time. We do that through education, journalism, activism, and a lot of it we do, you can hear it on the No State Project, kind of a wrap-up of all the work we've done during the week and help prep people for court when they're being attacked by those men and women calling themselves a government. And we do that live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time on the Liberty Radio Network. That's LRN.FM. And a little more stuff. We had a lot of stuff in Mesa and here in Phoenix this past week. So yesterday we had Randy Polakar hang up on me, and because the question that I asked, and I ask it all the time now, because I think this is part of what real journalism is about, is exposing criminals, for what they are, especially exposing scams, especially if you've got, a criminal enterprise operating, it should be reported on so people know about it. So it's through education. People need to see these people, that this Randy Polakar is not an honorable. He's part of a criminal organization called the City of Mesa. How do I know that they're, it's criminal? Because they force everyone to pay them. That's criminal. So he didn't like when I asked the question, if I did business like the government types and I forced people to give me money, would you consider me a criminal? So, of course, he hangs up the phone because he's a little bit too, it's obvious. It's obvious. He cannot make a moral case for what he does. But the call of shame at the, it's in this video and also on marcstevens.net, part of the article. Charles Hoskins, he dealt with it a little bit better. He did hang up on me because these people who call themselves the government, which there is no such thing as a government, it's just people like Charles and Randy and Jan Brewer, they're just men and women. They cannot make a moral case for what they do, because you cannot rationalize or justify forcing people to give you money. Because as Charles agreed, if you force people to give you money, there's a word for that. It's called robbery. He also said it was extortion, which I agree. You force people to give you money? Yeah, extortion, robbery. The problem comes in when these people are asked a very direct question that counters their view of the world, because they hold themselves out as honorable. They give themselves that title. They're honorable. It doesn't take into account the fact, and this is from, I love this, building trust through transparency. Hey, you build trust by not forcing people to pay you. Did you not get that lesson? Did you not learn that by the time you were 5 years old, Chuck? Don't force people to pay you, and you can build some trust. It's sick. It's perverse. Well, this is how much we're stealing from you, so we're going to build your trust. How about not stealing in the first place? But back to the point, this is Maricopa County government. That's their own website, Maricopa County, Arizona. This is how much money they're stealing or extorting, robbing, to use Charles's words, that it was forcing people to pay you is extortion and robbery. So this is how much they're actually extorting from the Phoenix Valley every year, over $400 million. So I wanted to know why there was such a double standard. I thought I was being pretty straightforward. He kept on saying I was making a story up. I was jumping around. I don't know, everything to avoid the, difficult questions. And he thought it was ridiculous. He thought it was actually funny that I would even question them. Why is it extortion when I force people to give me money, but not when you do it? Because what you're doing is you're gutting this false perception that when you call yourself a government, you're not human anymore. The basic principles of right and wrong do not apply to you. It's okay to steal if you call yourself a government. And that's a sick way of, that's a sick mind. It's not robbery when I do it. Yeah, it is. And more of your victims are starting to figure that out. So, Old Haas did not want to answer the questions. He the best that he could do to show that it was not extortion or robbery when he did it was the same act, forcing people to your property. It wasn't extortion or robbery when he did it because it's within the law. And so when I asked him about any evidence that the law actually applied, just because I was physically in Phoenix or physically in Phoenix or Arizona, he couldn't do it, and he wound up hanging up on me. Because bottom line, the people who call themselves government, because there is no government, they're just men and women like old, Haas over here. They do force us to give them money, and that is extortion. It is robbery. They cannot make a moral case for it. They cannot justify what they're doing, and that's why they just hang up. And if you're in person, they call security on you. They cannot make a moral position. And that's why I urge everyone, you have to point out the gun in the room. It's the key to getting these things tossed out when we're in court. We're always exposing the violent nature of it, because when you do it by force, there's no need for actual evidence. And it's just another example of the psychopathic mindset that these people have. It's okay for us to steal and kill and cheat you, because we called ourselves a government. It's sick. But listen to the recording, make up your own mind. If you disagree with what I presented here or the article or anything on markstevens.net, please, we're live every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Liberty Radio Network. It's LRN.FM. And ambush me on a live broadcast where I cannot control the recording. I look forward to your evidence. Again, it's markstevens.net, and the show is the No State Project.
Is this Mr. Stevens? This is Charles Hoskins, the Maricopa County Treasurer. I'm returning your call.
Oh, thank you. What was your name again? Charles?
Yes, Charles Hoskins.
Charles Hoskins. Well, thank you, sir. I do a radio show. I wanted to be able to ask you some questions and record it for a broadcast.
And what's the subject?
It has to do with the application of Arizona state law.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It has to do with the application of Arizona state law.
The application of which state law?
Arizona state law.
And what part of it?
Well, the operating presumption seems to be that if someone is physically, or their property is physically in Arizona, then the laws of the state of Arizona would apply, which would include the taxing statutes. Would you agree that that's the way the government operates? If you're physically in Arizona, then the laws apply to you?
I'm having difficulty understanding you. I think your question was, if a property is located in Arizona, is it subject to Arizona law? Now, which laws? The tax laws, or
all of them? Any law that would be. Yeah.
I'm not an attorney. I administer the property tax laws as far as collecting the taxes, and the county assessor is the one that determines which property is taxable and how much of the value of that property is taxable. And what I do is collect those taxes and deposit them in the accounts for the various districts, such as the cities, the county, school districts, and so forth. But as far as an opinion of which laws apply and how they apply, that is not something. I'm not an attorney.
You have to be an attorney to determine that you're properly applying the law to somebody?
I have to be an attorney to determine what?
That you personally in your office are properly applying the law to someone?
There's no way you can answer that kind of a question. We don't make a determination as to how the law is applied, if that's your question.
So you exercising no discretion, you just carry out the orders of the assessor?
It's not orders from the assessor, it's the tax roll. Do you own a home?
It's not really an issue here.
Most of what you're asking is pretty much, I can't figure out where you're coming from on that. What?
Well, where I'm coming from is that the basic operating presumption of governments, people like yourself, especially here in Arizona, believe that if I or someone is physically in Arizona, then the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona apply. And my issue is if there's any actual proof that just because I or my property are physically in Arizona, that the Constitution and laws apply to me.
I don't think I can answer that.
Okay, well, maybe you can answer this. Another question. If I was to do things in the same manner as the government, and I forced people to give me money, would you consider me a criminal?
Again, that's a hypothetical question that I would not pass judgment on something like that because it doesn't make sense.
Well, if I force people to give me money, if I threaten them and force them...
I think that's either extortion or if you're going to force them, you're going to do it at, force of under a threat of bodily harm, then of course I think that anybody would tell you that that's illegal.
Well, it's extortion. It would be so.
What was that?
So you would agree that if I force people under threat to give me money, that would be extortion?
I would agree that it could be a crime for one individual to rob another individual, which seems to me that's what you're asking.
Right. So taking money, forcing people to give you money is robbery.
Well, again, you're going to have to maybe check with your legal people on that as to how you're going to force them. Courts do that all the time with rulings on child support, alimony. They force people that are not meeting their obligations to pay the court a certain amount each month that is then relayed to the party that is supposed to get it. So if that's the case, if you're looking at something like that, if the court is forcing them to do that, I don't think that would be a crime.
Well, why is it a crime if I was to force somebody to give me money, but it's not a crime for you or somebody called the government to do it?
Are you saying that government is forcing people to give it money, and that's a crime?
What I'm saying is that government is just men and women like yourself. You are the government. And if it's, like you said, it's extortion and robbery, if I was to force somebody to give me money, why is it not extortion and robbery when you do it?
That's a ridiculous question.
Let me write that down. It's a ridiculous question. Why is that ridiculous?
Well,
it's funny.
I'm trying to figure out what your storyline is. And I haven't quite gotten there yet. And it seems to me that what you're trying to get to is that government is taking money from property owners, and they shouldn't be doing that. Well, is that your storyline?
I think what we've established on the call because I'm just asking you the questions, that if I took property by force or someone took property by force, you said that would be extortion, and you said it would also be robbery.
No, I said if an individual forces somebody to give them money, that could be either extortion or robbery, I think, under the law. I'm not an attorney, as I say. But you're all over the place on what you're... I still haven't figured out what you're looking for.
Well, I think I've already established it. I just want to know why there's a double standard. Why is the same action taken by me, by forcing someone to give me money, extortion and robbery, and it's not when you do it? This
Are
is
you
hilarious.
Serious?
You're the one. You guys have this standard that if you call yourself a government, then all of a sudden the basic principles of morality and ethics don't apply. That what's extortion and robbery for me is taxation for you because you call yourself the government. That I think is funny. I think that's hilarious. That I think it's so ridiculous. It's hilarious. Okay, well, how is it different than when you take property by force, when you take money by force and under threat? How is that not extortion and robbery?
because it's within the law.
It's within the law.
What's that?
Well,
and
okay.
when you force money take money by force, that is breaking the law.
Well, that raises the original question, because the question I had before is in the way the way governments operate, people like yourself, is that if I am physically in Arizona, then the laws apply to me. So let me ask you, since you've made this statement, what evidence would you have to prove that just because I was physically in Arizona, that the constitutional laws of the state of Arizona would apply to me?
Mr. Stevens, I think that you are trying to create a story based upon some assumption or conclusion that you've jumped to. You've making a point, or trying to make a point, that is so far unrealistic that I don't really think that I want to be any part of it. I would just appreciate it if you would erase your tape. There's nothing that I would want to contribute to your process. So hopefully you can talk it over with an attorney or somebody and figure it out yourself.
Well, what assumption have I made?